Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to what will more than likely be a very long video, but hopefully not too long because I have a lot of great things I want to talk to you guys about. This is a video that I've wanted to make for maybe a couple years, and I've been trying to find the best way to get around these subjects and present them in a way that I think could be very helpful, at the same time answer questions that you guys have been sending me for years. Some of the things I want to do in this video is discuss my thoughts on film criticism as an art, where it used to be, where it is today, where it's heading in the future, and talk to some other people that are also in the same field that I am, whether you're writing or doing videos, because there's a bit of a gap there that has formed recently, and a lot of people who are writing tend to think that people who are doing videos, for some reason, are not film critics for real. And I want to talk a little bit about that in this video as well, and I hope you stay tuned for this video because there's going to be some awesome guest stars that I think you guys are going to be pretty excited to see. What I want to cover first is getting started, being a film critic, and how you start doing something like that, because a lot of people ask me this, and I mean a lot. I get a lot of emails, tweets, and messages daily of people who want me to read their columns or watch their film reviews or watch one of their short films and offer them advice. So what I want to do is sort of go over some of the majority questions that I get and talk about them in ways that hopefully can be helpful. For me, when I got started doing film reviews, I did it as a hobby. It was just something that I did for fun. I had a normal job. I worked for a school system on a school bus. I worked with mentally handicapped children. That was what I did. It was my normal job. I supervised them on a school bus. I took care of them. I made sure that their trip to school was safe. If something happened along the way, I was the person who tried to take care of that problem. On the weekends, I would try to see as many films as I can. Sometimes I would go to the Thursday midnight showing of a film, and then at 5 a.m. on Friday, go to work. That was fun. I started doing written reviews actually, which is something that I think a lot of people do not know. And so that's one of the reasons I want to talk more about the written aspect and the video aspect, because I've actually done both. And when I moved over to doing video reviews, I found that I was able to infuse so much more energy physically into a video than I was able to in my writing, and that's one of the things that appealed to me the most. Now, in my opinion, a film review has to contain a few things. For one, you have to give the reader or the viewer some idea of what the movie is about. And that's why I always start out my reviews with a very brief synopsis. Now, some film critics go very in-depth with this, and they go into almost the entire first act of the movie is written as if it's the synopsis. You don't even have to watch the first 45 minutes anymore. I don't do that. I basically tell you a quick little bit, like what you might read on the IMDb plot synopsis, and then I move on to my review. When Roger Ebert was alive, he said something very profound to me, and I'm going to paraphrase this because I don't have his exact quote. If you give a film a negative review, someone who watched your review or read it has to be able to assume that that is a film they might actually enjoy based off of your description of the movie. So in other words, you don't just start out your review just completely trashing it. You don't just, I freaking hate this movie. This is this and this is wrong and all of this. You have to at least give the film some respect. Roger Ebert said, give the film its day in court. Even films that I absolutely loathed, I try to at least explain what the film is about and then why I hated the film so much. Because then a viewer who may watch that review thinking, I kind of want to see this movie, what are his thoughts on it? They might think, you know what, those things that he mentioned, it's not going to bother me. I'm going to go see that movie. Now, what I try to do is I always try to have a balance of positive and negative, because usually there's a little bit of both in each movie. Rarely do I ever see a film that's all one or all the other. Sometimes that does happen. But what I do is I talk about the positives first. I view it as the way you are supposed to critique actual people. One of the things that I was taught in school from a teacher was that whenever a teacher is giving a student some sort of advice, he or she usually tries to start with the positives first. They say, you know what, you were very good with your sentence structure on that report, your spelling was top notch, however, it just felt jumbled and messy to me. And that's the way I approach film reviews as well, and I think it's the best way to do that, because if you start with the positive, it gives the viewer the notion that you have a level head. You're not just there to bash this thing. You're not just a person who goes and sits there and is a critic in a negative term, who just hates everything. He hates life. He doesn't want to experience any fun. He's very pessimistic about everything, because the term film critic nowadays can kind of come with a bit of a negative connotation. And some people view film critics as these people who just hover over the audience, who don't actually have a communal experience with everyone else, who feel they are above everyone. In my opinion, that is false for the majority of film critics, but there are definitely film critics out there where I have read their reviews and I have thought, do you even like what you're doing? Now, you can give the films a grade if you wish. There's all different types of things you can use. Stars, letter grades, you can make up your own grade, whatever you want to do. The reason I give a film a grade is it helps me to be able to balance out the way I feel about the films throughout the year. And grades for some critics are the bane of our existence. And not because we don't want to give a film a grade, it's because sometimes when you have some notice on the internet, people start to send you messages like, why didn't you give a film that grade? Or why didn't you give that film your perfect grade? Because you didn't mention any flaws in your review. So why didn't you give that film an A+ or 5 stars or 10 out of 10? Because you mentioned no flaws. Or is Don John really as good as The Dark Knight? Because you gave them both the same grade. Grades are very, very different than what you may be thinking. See, I view a film within its genre. Let's take Don John, for instance. I loved that movie and I did give it an A+. I did think that as a romantic comedy, that was one of the best I'd seen. I also gave The Dark Knight an A+, because I thought that as a comic book film, that was one of the best, if not the best, I'd seen. Is The Dark Knight better than Don John? Yes, of course it is. They got the same grade though. Does that mean they're the same? No. They're both in different genres, and so that has a different meaning for that type of grade. So whatever you want to do with the rating is completely up to you. You can use one, you don't have to. My next point that I want to talk about is your style. A film critic's style. The way in which you write or film your reviews. Because this is, in my opinion, quite possibly the most important aspect of a film review is your own voice. You have to be able to figure out who you are as a person, because this is one of the hardest parts about being a film critic. Because for sure, being a film critic is technically awesome. You get to watch movies and it's great. However, the hardest part about it is expressing your feelings about something and figuring out who you are as a person through public speaking or through writing. Because in all honesty, filming a video is public speaking. You have to be able to stand up in front of people and talk to them in a way that you think they might want to hear you. Now, Gene Siskel said one time, and once again I'm paraphrasing, about this, about finding your own voice, is that there is a myth in the film critic land that you are not allowed to express your feelings in a review. You're not allowed to say things like, I felt, or this film affected me this way. You're just supposed to be like this aloof presence that didn't actually have an experience with the audience and is just sort of reporting your thoughts. And Gene Siskel spoke about that very negatively. There's a video on YouTube, I believe it's called Roger Ebert or Siskel and Ebert on Film Criticism. I believe that's the video title, in which they discuss some of those things. And that had such a profound meaning on me. I have received that advice before in the past, to not say I or this is how I felt when doing a written review. Doing a video, you have to, because a video is sometimes very ad-libbed, and yes, some videos are scripted, and that's fine too. A viewer or a reader who comes across your review needs to feel some kind of connection. Because I've read reviews before, and I've watched videos before where it just appears as if the person who is reviewing the film that they just saw is like a newscaster. This bland, emotionless person who talks like this as if he is a news reporter and this is what he does for a living, and there is no emotion, just this robotic expression of speaking. Who really wants to sit there and watch that? Nobody wants to watch that. No one wants to listen to that because there's no connection. One of the most important things, in my opinion, that a film critic can do is have a connection with his or her audience. See, when I come home for a film, I am itching to talk about it. I do not feel right within my skin until I talk about the film in a review and share it with you guys. My opinion is important to me, and I want to share it with you guys and hopefully find people that have the same opinion, or even better yet, someone who has a different opinion who can have a healthy debate. Because that is the rarest of rarities, being able to have an actual intellectual discussion with differing opinions on a movie. Now, I want to talk a little bit about things that I feel are the biggest mistakes that film critics make nowadays. And one of the largest ones that I've ever witnessed that is literally running rampant throughout film criticism is people who are writing a review or filming one, and they are allowing current news or media or pop culture trends around a star or a director to be infused and infected within their review. A current thing that surrounds a person who worked on a movie should have no bearing on your review. None. It's extremely important for us as a film critic to review the movie, not the people who are involved with it. For instance, X-Men Days of Future Past. Bryan Singer right now is in the middle of this court thing, but I didn't mention it in my review because it has nothing to do with the movie. It's not a pertinent subject to discuss in a review of a film. This is a film made by thousands of people, actors, producers, lighting technicians, editors, music, all this stuff that has nothing to do with this scandal that's going on in the background. I really think that current film critics need to take that into account when they review a movie. Imagine what someone 20 years from now who comes across your review would be thinking if the entire review is just filled with whatever's going on in the current day, about this particular star. This person 20 years from now is going to be like, I just wanted to know if he liked the movie or not. That's our goal. That's our point. We're telling people what we thought of the movie. Now, I've come across a few articles recently written by people who are primarily film critics who write their reviews, and they have been decidedly hostile towards video film critics. And I've been kind of bothered by this, to be honest, because I like both. I read written reviews and I watch film reviews. Obviously, I primarily do video reviews because I find that I enjoy that the most. That is my chosen area. That is my particular field that I appreciate the most. Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel popularized the idea of actually being energetic on camera and entertaining in a way to talk about film criticism. Now, that's not to say that that detracts from their written reviews, because their written reviews were also great. I read them and I watched their show. The thing is, it's just two different mediums. One is not meant to replace the other, but they're both meant to strengthen the other one. See, I like to write reviews from time to time. I don't do it often, and sometimes I actually will write a review and I won't even publish it. I'll just write it and I'll be like, nah, that's not really something I'd ever want anyone to see, and I'll just delete the file or whatever, but it's always there within me, and that's never something that I think should be at war with each other, because that is a very, very pointless endeavor. And this is a perfect way to bridge into my guests segments, in which I'm going to be talking to some people who are also film critics. Some guests that you may recognize, some faces that you might enjoy seeing, and some people you may not know. One of the first people I want to talk to is a writer. His name is Craig Candico of FatMovieGuy.com. So my buddy here, Craig Candico, writes for FatMovieGuy.com. And I'm curious to know how you approach a movie review as a writer, since primarily what I do here is video, and I like to know the opinion of a writer.
Well, the best way I approach a movie itself to review it is really as a fan first. I mean, I've grown up going to movies. I remember going to see Goonies at the theater on the last day of school with my friends and stuff because my mom took me. So I always go into a movie thinking, was it fun? Did it take me on a roller coaster of emotions and thrills and suspense and things like that? When was I scared? Was I laughing at all the right spots? Did I jump in my seat? But just like how people on YouTube try to talk to the screen and have a conversation, I try to do that in words. But ultimately, when I go in, I try to go in as a fan, as just a normal person. I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I have a job. I try to use all of those backgrounds and talk using that experience, and just once again just try to have a conversation, but just in words. I've always been asked when I do write, how do I write? And I go, I just imagine all the time that I'm like at a bar or I'm having dinner with a friend, and they're like, oh, I'm thinking about seeing a movie. What movies did you see? It's like, well, I saw this movie. Well, did you like it? Well, I loved it. And here's why. Boom, boom, boom.
So what do you think are the major differences between video critics and written critics?
I've seen a lot of people try to emulate you or
Right.
schmoes or things like that. And they have just zero production value. They don't know how to crop themselves. So, you're looking at it and they're like this, or, they're like this. There's zero production value. So if a movie studio were to see it, or a written critic were to see it, I could see easily why written critics who, maybe have a journalism degree and studied film, they look at this and it's like, no. But there's definitely been a rise where, like I said, between you and schmoes and some of the other, ones that you've made friends with, and I'll sit there and watch it and I'm like, that's exactly what I'm thinking. If you really think about it, Roger Ebert was a pre-YouTube video reviewer. Yeah, he wrote for either the Chicago Sun-Times or the
Chicago Sun-Times,
or and Siskel wrote for the Tribune. Ebert and Siskel created the video review. So to see people grown up, inspired by those. And you have things like YouTube, or even people that just upload it to Facebook or something like that because they have this technology. You didn't have that, but now that you have it, unfortunately, yeah, it does saturate the market with people that are just like, yeah, Tom Cruise is great. It's not a battle between like men versus women and old people versus young people. It's really a thing where it should be like a community that works together. I mean, there's strengths in both, and there's weaknesses in both. I mean, there's really good pros and cons. For video, I'm jealous that I don't do video reviews. A lot of people, the ADD society, I want to watch it. I don't want to read it. I don't want to read nothing. I just want to watch it. I have to really think, like I said, about my sentence structure and grammar. But like I said, I always make fun of you because I can't write Scarlett Johansson. I can't write that down.
And that is my benefit. That is what I can make noises. Thank you. So that's my good buddy Craig Candico, fatmovieguy.com. Definitely check him out. But now what I want to do is open this video up to people out there that I really respect. So I reached out to a lot of other movie reviewers, film enthusiasts, other film critics out there, and I wanted to know what their opinion was on this subject, and they sent me some videos. Now, I'm not going to introduce them each individually. I'm just going to let you guys enjoy these video submissions from some people that I greatly respect, and I want to thank all of them for contributing to this video, so enjoy, because this is going to be epic.
Hi there, it's Alicia Malone from Malone'sMovieMinute.com. There's so many films out there and not a lot of time to see them, so when I review a movie, I try to get out within about 60 seconds whether a film is worth watching or maybe just worth skipping altogether. But I don't like to spend a lot of time talking about films that I didn't enjoy. I hate trash talking movies. So instead, I will put my time and energy and soul and heart into movies that I think are really worth your time and your money. I'm also a classic film lover, so when I look at a modern movie, I try to break it down on what maybe has influenced it in terms of the films that have come before it, the directing style or the cinematography, and deliver that hopefully in an accessible way and maybe give you something that you might not have heard before. I'm also a passionate supporter of independent movies, documentaries, and movies with strong female roles. So that is where my heart lies. But I see everything, and I love nothing more than when someone comes to me and asks for a suggestion, and I might suggest something weird or strange on Netflix or iTunes. They go away and they watch it and they come back and they tell me that they love it. That for me is one of the best feelings in the world.
Film criticism is an interesting thing because first off, the word critic kind of sounds like you're saying negative things, right?
Yeah.
It
Everyone's
encompasses
a critic.
everything, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's a critic, hey! But it encompasses everything. You could be critiquing a film and say all the great things about it, or all the negative things about it, or both. But the other interesting thing is that everybody's different, and it's just opinions.
Yeah,
it's just opinions.
And that's why I feel like going on sites like Rotten Tomatoes and any kind of review sites is a kind of a little weird because we got this whole side of reviewers, and who are these people?
Right.
Like,
They're no different than us. Maybe
Yeah.
knowledge of film, but that might not matter to somebody who doesn't care about how the lighting works and
Yeah,
stuff
exactly.
like that.
If you're a critic who maybe understands lighting more than your average folk, normal guy's not going to
Then
be like...
some people will like you, but some people won't.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But since I don't know those things, I try and go on more of like an enthusiasm side. Like,
Right,
know,
if you're, like, excited
Jurassic
and
Park.
passionate.
Did
Yeah.
you see that dinosaur eat a
Right.
guy?
I've looked at reviewing movies or just talking about movies as teaching myself what I like and don't like. So I'm trying to see like every movie and think like I do like that, I don't like that, and kind of put my own opinions
And you're
together.
sharing it.
Right.
I think
and it's
the-
enjoyable,
Yeah.
sharing it and talking about it, starting discussions.
Yeah.
But I think a problem with younger audiences is that they will take that as like a word of gospel and be
Absolutely.
like,
I think it is younger people for sure.
But like what people need to understand is that like every critic is different.
Everyone's
Every
opinion is different. So is yours. Yeah.
Even if
there is no right or wrong.
Even if two critics love a movie, they might love it for completely different reasons.
Sure. And they might hate this movie that you love, but that doesn't mean
Like, I'm
anything.
the
No, it's like
perfect example.
You look at the movie, it's like, oh, my favorite critic doesn't like the movie. I like.
I guess
it.
I don't like it.
I mean, it is what it
Oops.
is.
Yeah.
You know? God, Schindler's List was boring, but RoboCop was awesome.
Hey, you know what? What do we love?
Schindler's
all love
List didn't
movies.
have RoboCop in it.
No,
You don't know that.
But you know what?
We love movies.
We love movies.
Yeah, I like movies.
And that's
We love
the most
talking about
important thing.
movies.
We all come together because we have this one love of movies.
Yeah.
And that's awesome.
Hey there guys, how are you? My name's John. I come from the Flip Pick channel, a cold, desolated place. It looks like a zombie apocalypse happened many years ago, but we're still eating dog food for some odd reason. Okay, let's get to the point. By the way, it feels good to be back on Stuckmann's channel. It's a warm, cozy place, but everything's covered in ectoplasm for some odd reason. I guess that's what happens when you get Stuckmannized. So film criticism, what does it mean to me? What is my take on it? Well, I'd say about 3 or 4 years ago, before I discovered the power of YouTube, I was like, film criticism, that's something Roger Ebert does, and that's something you read in the newspaper on a Friday morning. That's when people used to read the newspaper. But yeah, a few years back, I got on YouTube, I found movie reviewers, movie critics, talking about movies, and I was like, I want to be part of that, because I have no social life whatsoever. I have no other friends. If you're watching my videos or you watch my channel, you guys are my friends. You are the people I like to talk about movies with, or I talk about movies to you and you guys type in the comments and I'm like, yeah, it feels like we're having a discussion here. And that's essentially why I like talking about movies. Do I consider myself a film critic? I wouldn't say so. I mean, I am a guy, I review movies. I like to consider myself a film enthusiast. There's nothing better than going to see a good movie or a terrible movie that's just a pile of shit and then being able to express my thoughts with a camera in front of me. It just feels good. It gives me little tingles down my spinal cord. So yeah, as far as film criticism goes, it's nice to see a group of people on YouTube who are passionate about movies. We're all film enthusiasts. We come together, we talk about movies, give opinions on it, we get analytical, sometimes we get angry, but in the end, it's a process I rather enjoy, and I'm just glad people like you like to watch.
Hey everybody, we are The Schmoes. I'm Christian.
And I am Mark. We're coming to you from the set of our movie show. This is one of the many formats we use to employ our love of movies.
And we all did it again because what we do as far as our reviewing style, what it is, we'd like to approach it from the everyday person. Like the way you talk to your friends about movies, we hope is the way when you watch our reviews, that's how you feel. Your friends talking to you about movies.
Yeah, I think that people get this notion of what a critic is supposed to look like, and
Yeah.
I'd like to be one of the people that debunks that myth a little bit because yes, we are professional critics, but we also just love movies, and I think that once you get into a movie and you start thinking critically about it, you can actually have a deeper appreciation of what you're seeing.
And I think that that's ultimately what we both love about doing what we do is the fact that, look, we don't always agree with each other. We yell at each other a lot.
We just did.
We did right before this started. But what we like to do is we like to discuss the movies, what you didn't like about it, what you did like, and the back and forth. And it's always fun. Like it's right after you get out of a movie theater, you like to talk to your friends about what did you like, what didn't you like. That's what we do on our channel. And I think that's why people have responded to our particular stuff.
Now, see, I usually wait until we get to the bar to talk about movies. He's the guy that actually will attack strangers as they're walking out of the theater. Hey, what do you think about that? What do you think about that?
Right.
Bottom line is, we love doing this, and it's much better than wearing a tie to work.
Go see X-Men.
Well, for me, it's movie critic versus movie reviewer. And the terms are, ultimately, I think it's going to be subjective in terms of who's thinking about it. It's really in one of those eye of the beholder kind of things. Movie critic is a term that I always grew up with, and I would watch movie critics, and they would critique movies, and I didn't find a kindred spirit in them, you know. I watched them, I'm like, well, they're entertaining, but I don't agree with them. So in this recent boom in the past few years that the internet has given power to normal people and relatable people to review movies, like on YouTube, this recent boom in reviewers on YouTube. So people gravitate to them and they're like, oh, that's my reviewer, but they're more relatable and they like movies that are fun and they're not really after the artsy type of movies. And so at that point, you have to think of a term that divides the two parties. And for me, it just in my mind's eye, I'm not saying other people are like this, but for me, it was like, okay, movie reviewer is the more relatable, laid back, normal person. And critic is, the critic, the stuffy, piped to the falls people who critique movies. And they probably have like 7 degrees to do it. And so that's how I see it anyway. It's, again, not everyone's going to see it that way. But if it's in the eye of the beholder, that's how I see it, is that it's just a term that people will probably see differently, but it's a one-word thing to divide, like, all right, how do you divide these two parties? One word to divide them. All right, these are critics, these are reviewers. And that's how it is, in my mind's eye.
So I'm sitting here today with Scott Mance, the film critic of Access Hollywood. I'm sitting with him through phone link because that is what we're doing. That's the technology we're bringing out today. This is a film critic I greatly respect. And first off, thank you very much for being in this.
Well, thanks. I'm honored to be a part of the project, and it's great to talk with you.
Thank you. So my first question for you is really how you approach film criticism, a movie review. What is your thoughts going into a film?
Well, I'm going to tell you, I remember when I first started reviewing movies 15 years ago with Eyes Wide Shut, July of 1999. My friends are like, now that you're turning this love of film into a career, be careful that you don't lose your passion for film. And you know what, 15 years later, I still feel the same way I always did when I go into a movie theater or a screening room to watch a movie. As soon as I sit in the chair, when the lights come down, I feel the weight of the world just being lifted from my shoulders, and I'm anxious and eager and excited to get lost in a movie. I approach every film the same way, whether it's a movie based on a comic book hero, a sci-fi action thriller, an independent film, a foreign film, a documentary, a Woody Allen movie, you name it. I just want to be entertained, but even more so, if a movie can make me feel enlightened or informed, then that's icing on the cake. I love movies, and when I see films that I love, obviously it shows in my review, and if I see films that I don't like, I still want to come across in my review like I still love movies. The last thing I want to do is get snarky or start getting cute with my review just to make people laugh or to impress myself. Whether it's a good film or a bad film, I want to write and talk about it like I have a passion for movies. The internet completely changed the way movies are reviewed, and now it just comes down to a number, how well it's doing on Rotten Tomatoes. I think a lot of people just look at the number, or they'll just look at the pull quotes, which are written by a lot of wannabe critics who are just looking to just say their piece, which is fine, but they're really not very good reviews, and they're just looking to be mean because they just hide behind a computer in the dark, and that's not what film criticism is all about.
You're absolutely right, and that leads into my last question for you. What do you think some of the pros and cons are between someone who writes a review and then someone who films a review?
I have two answers to that question. First of all, there's no question that the nature of film reviews have changed. The old days when you had Pauline Kael or Siskel and Ebert put the thumbs up or thumbs down and would influence a movie like that, or influence people to see a movie just based on the thumb, those days are gone. And even with the number on the tomato meter, some people will decide whether or not they want to see a movie there, but I still think that grown-ups will read reviews and decide whether or not they want to see a movie. But generally, reviews come in a lot more handy after people see the film. They have an opinion, and they go back to the reviews to see if they agree with the critics. So in that sense, reviews matter more than ever. But in terms of video versus written, I gotta tell you, I would be perfectly happy, Chris, if I could just sit and write reviews day in and day out, whether they're 600 words or 1,000 words or 2,000 words. But unfortunately, just writing reviews alone is not going to be enough for you to make a living, let alone a good living, which is why I think a lot of critics are trying to balance it by having written reviews, where they can really get into the meat of a film and just really get down and say why this worked or what didn't, or what other movies this was like. The video reviews, a lot of times, they're a lot shorter. You don't have a lot of time to say what you want to say, so you have to get to the point. On Access Hollywood Live, which is our morning show, I go on camera every Friday, and they give me 1 minute to talk about 2 movies. So I have 30 seconds to say what I want to say about a film. That's not a lot of time.
Not at all. Not at all.
Not at all. And that's not really film criticism.
I shivered just thinking of that.
Yeah, listen, Chris, I get it. It's the nature of the beast. But because I know that I can write, and write as long as I want to write, I know that, okay, I get it. Access Hollywood, that's what I have to do to get my reviews on camera. But I know that I can write, and I love to write, and I can really get into a movie in the written form. So if people really want to be informed about one of the reviews I've written, they can always read about it.
I agree. So I want to say thank you very much, Scott Mance. It was great that you wanted to be in this video. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, and I really hope that your knowledge of film can assist other people who watch this video who are interested in learning about being a film critic. And just thank you so much, sir.
Thanks very much for having me, Chris. Really great talking to you. Let's stay in touch.
You too, man. Thank you, everyone, for submitting to this video. All of you guys are people that I respect very much. I've left links for all of them in the description below. But they made some really great points, didn't they? Particularly Alicia Malone's point about not always wanting to go see a movie that you don't necessarily want to see. Because sometimes you can watch a preview for a movie and be like, yeah, it's not, I'm gonna hate that. And I don't want to watch that. I want to waste my time talking about how much I hate that. I want to waste my viewers' time talking about how much I hate that. The Schmoes also made a great point about being conversational, you know, just talking to people as if they're your friends, because it does make that connection with the audience that I was talking about. One of the things that my buddies over at Pretty Much It said that I strongly agree with is the idea of people being swayed by other film critics' opinions or by Rotten Tomatoes score. The fact that sometimes people can actually be like, you know what, yeah, I agree with my friend, he's right, and my opinion doesn't matter. Because that actually happens out there. Believe me, it happens. I've seen it with me. I've seen people actually be like, Chris Stuckmann changed my opinion on that. Now that's different. Sometimes you can read someone's review or someone's analysis of a film and think, you know what? I missed a lot of things in that film. It just didn't connect with me at first, and now I get it. That's a different thing. But I have seen people actually just entirely change their opinion because they feel that now their opinion is wrong because someone out there who has the respect of movie lovers has a different opinion than them. And it scares me. Don't be like that. If you have an opinion and it's your opinion, keep it that way. It's okay if you watch a movie and you think, wow, I didn't really get that the first time, or wow, I was wrong about that the first time around, just because you saw it and you're like, you know what, my opinion's different now. That's entirely different. And if you didn't know, it's cool to be funny in your reviews too. And my buddy the Flick Pick, John Flickinger, does that as well. It's cool to be entertaining. It's fun to allow comedy to be infused in your video, to make yourself enjoyable to watch. And that was something that Ebert and Siskel tried to do their best at, to just be really enjoyable to watch. You didn't have to watch them and necessarily agree with their opinion. You could just be like, you know what, these guys are fun. It's cool to watch these guys debate about movies. They're adults. It's cool to be an adult and debate about movies. And my buddy Jeremy's point, the difference between film critic and movie reviewer, is a very valid point because those are two very different things. Sometimes you can identify, like, that guy is just here to rip this thing to shreds, and it might be an incredibly great movie, and he's just sitting there like, no, oh, you lost me. Oh, I'm not even going to pay attention anymore. Notes, this movie sucks. I'm going to exaggerate everything about this movie that's bad so I can get a lot of hits on my Rotten Tomatoes review. And then there's the person that you watch who's a movie reviewer, like Jeremy, or the Schmoes, or myself, or John, or Pretty Much It, or all these guys who just sit there and they're like, you know what? I like movies, and I want to share my opinion on movies. Yeah, I'm going to be honest about what sucks, but it's awesome to be able to have a discussion with people who love movies, and that's what some of these people are doing on YouTube and throughout the internet. They're trying to generate a discussion about film, which is great because that is the whole point of this, in my opinion. You're trying to talk to other people about movies and generate a healthy discussion or debate about movies, and that is what we're trying to do here, and that's what I've been trying to do for years and what I'm continuing to do. I also want to thank Scott Mance from Access Hollywood for submitting to this video. That was so awesome of you to be able to do that, sir. Thank you very much. All of the people who submitted to this video, thank you very much, and thank you guys for watching this video. I really hope that it helps a little bit because I've gotten a lot of questions about film criticism, how to approach it, and what I think of being a film critic. And I hope that these submissions from other people out there and myself has been of great help to you guys. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.